All right, guys. So today we are starting our very first warm-up drawing. For this warm-up drawing, I just want to go over some directions and tell you what it is that I look for when I'm grading these. That way you kind of have an idea. So one of the main things, probably like if it's one thing I teach you this year, I want to teach you how to sketch, how to plan things out, and how to build up your drawings into a finished product. Because for the most part, you know, drawing is probably the most important thing in art, because it's the building block that helps us with all the other art mediums. So the thing I want to help you with, like I said, is sketching. So what is sketching? Sketching is quick lines that are not intended to be a part of our finished drawing. They're not intended to be part.
Teachers, please excuse this interruption. Your rosters will be handed out to you here in just a few minutes during first period. Thank you.
Okay, and sorry for that interruption. So when I sketch, this is what I'm looking at. So you guys are gonna have a picture on the board. You're gonna look at it and you're gonna put that picture, that whatever you see on the board, onto your paper. You know, you're kind of looking up there and you're trying to make that connection of being able to put on paper what you see visually. So what's the best way to do that? Well, you need to plan it out. And sketching is a way to plan something out. It's like in English. When you write a paper, you just don't start writing the final copy. You know, you do some brainstorming, you do a rough draft, you do some editing, and then you're good for your final paper. So, same thing here. Now, I can tell you that when I sketch, usually I break things up into simple shapes. You know, and if you think of simple shapes, you could think of like circles, squares, triangles, and ovals. You know, simple shapes. And what I like to use a lot when I sketch is just a bunch of circles. And you know, when I sketch, it looks like this: ovals and just lines. Lines. That's usually what I use when I'm sketching. So let me show you what today's warm-up drawing looks like if I was to look up there on the board and sketch it out. Oh, and the last thing, a sketch should be fast, shouldn't take longer than a couple of minutes, but it's gonna help in the long run because it's your planning phase. It's gonna make sure that this entire paper gets filled as much up with your drawing and you don't have like a little bitty picture in the middle and a bunch of empty space. So I'm gonna sketch this in gray. So today's warm-up is a couple of characters. So the first thing I'm looking at is kind of measurements. And if I split this picture in half, they have like connecting hands. They're holding hands, like right in here, something like that. All right, and then the shape of these characters, to me, it just looks like an elongated rectangle, kind of with a little curve. So I'm actually just gonna draw something like this. And then this guy on the left has like a big afro, so I'm gonna sketch that in as a circle. And then the character on the right, same thing, something like this. You know, face is there, that's her face, and then her hair goes something like that. So to me, this would be my beginning sketch. And you know, you might look at that and be like, what the heck is that? Well, there's a couple of things that this show me. First of all, that it's gonna fit on my paper. You know, and then I have some letters here at the bottom. So I'll just make two guidelines to kind of show me where the letters go. First of all, it's gonna show me that this is gonna fit on my paper. If you can see, I have a little bit of space all the way around, but it's not a little bitty picture in the middle. It's like as big as I can fit. So that's a good plan for me because I know I'm gonna fit the drawing page on this. So what would I do after this? So after I have my sketch done, and I don't know if you saw how long that took me, but that was a couple of seconds, just by looking on the board and quickly sketching, just planning out where things go. So what would I do next? So the next part would be to build up that drawing. Let me show you what I mean. And I'll do a little bit of it. I'm trying to find a color pencil that's not too dark. So I'm gonna go with this green one. So what I would do next is I would look at that picture and say, okay, for me, what is the easiest part to draw? And then I would start there, and then after I'm done there, I would expand. So for me, when I'm looking at that picture, I think this character space is probably for me the easiest to draw. So remember, the saying is draw light till it's right. So I'm still not drawing super dark. I'm just changing colors up here on the board so you can see kind of what the steps and the process for me are when I'm drawing a picture. And then I take it here and I'm just looking at whatever's up there, not necessarily trying to draw a finished line yet, because these are still, I guess I would call this like my secondary sketch, if you want to call it something, right? So from this point, you can see that I'm following my sketch lines, but one thing I always tell people, remember the sketch lines are not set in stone. If you have to move things around, because what you're gonna do at the end, you're gonna get rid of those sketch lines. So that's how, you know, those are just your beginning lines to plan it out, but it doesn't say, hey, you have to follow this circle. And no. So this is my secondary drawing. Then what would I do next? Well, then I would pay attention to the details. And then I would really come in here. There's like an eyelid. And this is how I would build it up, and then really pay attention to what my final drawing is gonna look like. And this is still done in pencil, and it is still done lightly so that I can come in with my outliner. Usually the warm-up drawings, for the most part, they're gonna start off being like cartoons, and then we'll work up to more complicated pictures. The good thing about these cartoons is that they're outlined. They're very easy to read the shapes. There's no like being confused by like the outlines, because it's a realistic picture. And that is why we start off with these. Okay, so you're gonna build up your picture a little at a time. And by the time I build this up, I will go from a sketch to a secondary sketch to a finished drawing. See, and that's how I would build it up. So sketch, secondary sketch with the light green, and then trying to clean it all up into a finished drawing with the blue, okay? So that is today's warm-up. Each day, you'll probably get 5-6 minutes while I take attendance. And usually each picture, you know, we'll spend anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. So if you could think about it, if you're having like, let's say 5-6 minutes a day, let's just say 6 minutes. 6 minutes a day times 5, Monday through Friday, that's 30 minutes. So we're probably gonna spend about every 2 weeks, we'll switch over to a new warm-up drawing. So don't think you gotta rush and finish. And no, take your time. These drawings are intended to help you with the sketching process, building up your drawing. And then tomorrow we're gonna talk about how to add value, how to add color to these, okay? Main thing is, you do have to draw whatever's on the page. You know, whenever I'm looking at these, when I'm grading these, there's 3 things I look for. I call this the P, the D, and the V. The P is for page. How much of the page did you fill? So if you draw a little bitty thing in the middle, there's a lot of empty space, you're gonna get docked some points. The D is a drawing. And it doesn't necessarily mean like it's the best drawing, it looks exactly like it up there. But what I mean is that drawing has a really good outline. It's nice and clean. And you know, you took the time to build up that drawing. And the last thing is value. How you added color and how you shaded. So we'll talk about the value part tomorrow, but for today, that's what I wanted to go over. So for today, when you get your piece of paper, what you want to do is you want to spend a couple of minutes looking at the picture, sketching it out, and then lightly sketching it in pencil, and then start building up your picture, okay? I'll give you a couple minutes for this, and then we'll move on here in a little bit.